This is my Nintendo Switch, and sure, I'm not quite proud of the condition that it's in, but 8 years later, it's still kicking. With the Nintendo Switch 2, with less than a month away, I'm ready to retire my OG Switch. So in today's video, I'm going to be unboxing and presenting to you what I believe is going to be the most essential accessories for the Nintendo Switch 2. So that way you can keep your Nintendo Switch from looking like this. Don't judge me. So before we get into the essential accessories for the Nintendo Switch 2, can I just pay some respects to my OG Switch here? This thing is 8 years old, and sure, the deck railing system isn't working anymore. The little rubber thumb pads on the Joy-Cons aren't there anymore. The screen is scratched up more than I would like to admit. And honestly, also the kickstand is missing. So, I mean, honestly, this thing has been kind of everywhere with me. I didn't opt to put a case or skin on this one because of the fact that I didn't want to get rid of that minimalist design, that kind of Nintendo engineering, if you will. So that's why this Switch is a little bit beat up, but again, it still works. After multiple spills, drops, scrapes, kind of just being stuffed into the book bag, Nintendo, if you're watching, good job. So the first accessory we're going to be talking about is going to be a case. And so while I actually did have a Nintendo Switch case, I never really used it, lesson learned. But the new Nintendo Switch is actually going to be relatively bigger than the original Nintendo Switch. So essentially, if you have Nintendo Switch 1 accessories, especially as it pertains to cases and screen protectors and things like that, they may not work with the Nintendo Switch 2. Alright, so I went a little bit spend crazy on Amazon. Jeff Bezos is probably super excited. My bank is probably like crying right now. But ultimately, I went ahead and ordered all the accessories that I think are going to be essential for the Nintendo Switch 2. You can see here that I have quite a few packages here on my desk. Excuse me if the camera's kind of shaking here. But I'm going to go ahead and unbox all of these accessories, tell you what they are, and then why they're important to the livelihood of your new Nintendo Switch 2. Let's go ahead and get started. We have our pull tabs up there, but that's no fun. So let's go ahead and cut this open. Hopefully I'm not cutting anything else in there. Shouldn't be. But this is going to be, anything else in here? Nothing. This is going to be the thumbsticks. So these are actually going to be on the actual thumb grips on the Nintendo Switch 2. This is going to be something that protects my Nintendo Switch 2's thumb pads, so that way they don't end up falling and rubbing off just like my original Nintendo Switch thumb pads did. You can see here that there are 2 different colors, and each of these could probably be used on each Joy-Con, either the left or the right. And you can see here that there are different types of textures, but also you could see maybe that there are different shapes for different people's comfort. So this is actually something I'm going to love. Again, this goes right over the actual thumbsticks on the Nintendo Switch 2. In terms of these actual rubber pads here, I do want to check and see how they feel. There are some plastic ones out there, but I do want the more rubbery feeling because it just adds texture and grip to the actual controllers. And so you definitely need that texture and grip whenever you're in some competitive gameplay with your brother for Mario Kart World. And so you just kind of pull the kind of little tips out just like this, and they actually feel really good. I don't know what to compare them to. They feel like soft plastic, but also kind of like a rubbery texture feeling. I don't know how to describe it, but I don't think you can actually go wrong with it because, again, they just kind of slip over the actual thumb pads, and then you'll be able to enjoy the grip. So that's always a win. So I am pretty impressed with these. I am pretty excited to put that onto my Nintendo Switch 2. Also, it is actually by the JSAUX brand. And so JSAUX is actually a pretty well-known brand in the gaming accessory space. They actually make a lot of good and quality products. The next set of accessories that we're gonna have here is, I don't know what this is. Okay, so this has multiple stuff inside. Let's talk about the smaller one first. So this is going to be a SUPCASE. This is actually going to be a case that I'm going to be putting on the Nintendo Switch. I actually think I bought a few different cases for the Nintendo Switch 2 just because I wasn't sure which case I would like the most. So this again is going to be the SUPCASE brand, the Unicorn Pro Beetle or the Unicorn Beetle Pro. And on the front side here, it says drop protection and then some kind of cool holographic-ish SUPCASE branding. So pretty cool. Let's go and open up and check and see what's inside. All right, yes. So this is the one I bought because it actually has a few things that I wanted from it. So here we have the actual case. This is going to be where the Nintendo Switch 2 actually kind of sits in. And you can see here that the right and left-hand side of the SUPCASE kind of open up, kind of like wings almost. Here's a top-down view, like that. So that way, on the Nintendo Switch 2, you could actually just pull the Joy-Cons off, and then you can see up here, it's pretty high quality TPU on the top portion, and then this actual bluish section is actually really nice plastic. I could foresee this being a little bit slippery in the future, and then at the bottom here, you have a little bit of a translucent plastic for the ports and whatnot. The cool thing about the inside of this SUPCASE Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be the fact that this right here, it looks like it has like indentions, kind of like if you're going to be feeling it on metal, but it actually doesn't. I'm not quite sure how SUPCASE did that. It's a mirror image or the reversed image of what you see on the back side of the case, but on the front side, this right here is actually smooth. There is no texture here, it's just smooth plastic. That's pretty neat. In terms of the actual grips, again, obviously the Nintendo Switch isn't in here right now, but in terms of the actual grip, it's actually really good. I can see that this is going to be comfortable for holding the Switch while playing the games because the corners actually feel really ergonomic. They fit in your palm really well. And then also the Joy-Con section, I'll have to do a follow-up review for these accessories in the future after I actually receive my Nintendo Switch 2, but I do like how these open up like so, and then they're not like flippy floppy. There actually is a little bit of tension so that way it doesn't just open up. It's not going to be something where you clip onto the Nintendo Switch 2's Joy-Con, and then whenever the Joy-Con is not inside of the case, it just kind of wobbles everywhere. It's actually can be set in place like so. So one of the things that I actually loved about this case is actually identified right here on the manual, is the fact that it is actually a case that you can input your Nintendo Switch 2 into the dock. So the Nintendo Switch 2 is obviously going to be able to be played in handheld mode, but also going to be able to be played in docked mode. And that's what I love about this case, is that if I wanted to put my Switch 2 in its dock, I wouldn't have to remove this case in order to effectively dock the Nintendo Switch. All I had to do is just keep the case on and then dock it into the docking station. Again, obviously this is theoretical because of the fact that I don't have the Nintendo Switch 2. I can't actually practically do that for you yet, but I will follow up with you for this. But on the manual here, it does say that you are able to still use your Joy-Cons. You're still able to use the little flappy things here for the Joy-Cons. And then all the way at the bottom here, you can actually see it does have dock mode support. So that's kind of a selling factor for me. There's nothing more annoying than having to take your case off just so that way you could put it in the docking station. So I actually am loving this case so far. It's pretty simplistic. I will have to, again, do a follow-up review for this case, but overall, it feels good. It's not heavy by any means. And so hoping that when the Nintendo Switch 2 is in here, that it doesn't add too much weight to the case, or maybe the case adds too much weight to the Switch, and then I'll be able to enjoy playing my Nintendo Switch 2. The next accessory that is definitely a must for the Nintendo Switch 2, especially if you are a traveler or you're commuting regularly, is going to be a carrying bag. So this is the TomToc, or however you pronounce that, kind of satchel. I don't know if this is made exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 2. I honestly would be using this for different situations, not just for a game station carrier. You can see here that it is a pretty simplistic design. It has kind of the handle in the back, and then you have this kind of sling strap to be used either as a front satchel or a back satchel. And then you also have these teeny tiny handles right here, which are going to be able to use on different sides with this little clip right here. And so with this clip as it is, you could just switch it to left or right, depending on which one you want. And you can see here that there isn't too much more to this, at least on the outside. There aren't any like cup holders or anything like that, no hidden pockets or anything, but let's see what this actual tag here says. And so this tag here simply just states that this bag was made completely from recycled material. So fun fact, if you were wondering, 8 PET plastic bottles equates into 1 TomToc laptop bag, and 30 recycled PET bottles equates to 1 TomToc laptop book bag. So hey, kudos to you, TomToc, for recycling this stuff and then saving the world in the process. Let's go ahead and open up this satchel to see what's inside. So Over here, we could see that it's actually quite spacious inside. I think this might be made exclusively for a game station, maybe the Nintendo Switch. You can see back here is where the Nintendo Switch 2 would actually be living because it's nice and padded, and that's really going to protect your Switch. This portion right here has a little bit of, it seems like more padding, and then there are smaller little pockets right here. Yeah, this has to be for the Nintendo Switch, and you can see that you could put your game cartridges in there. There is this little Velcro section right here, so that way you can go ahead and secure your Nintendo Switch like so. And then going deeper into the case, there isn't too much more. It really is just kind of a book bag underneath. There isn't like any hidden pockets or anything. However, there are 2 additional mesh pockets, I guess for like the charger or whatever. There's a mesh pocket on the outer side of the book bag, and then there's a mesh pocket on the inside. So there's in total 2 major pockets inside of here, and then there is 8 little plastic pockets right here that you could add 8 Nintendo Switch cartridges to, or maybe micro SD cards if you're going to use this as a camera bag. Overall, I would have to say the quality seems really good. The zipper is plastic, so I guess that's how TomToc is actually recycling everything, is by making sure everything is high quality and or plastic. So honestly, this looks really good. I think the Nintendo Switch is going to fit perfectly in here. I would say that this is a pretty decent size. So here's an iPhone 15 Pro Max, a 6.8-inch screen display, and you can see that the actual phone is not too much smaller than the actual case. So obviously it's really going to be dependent on how you're going to use your Switch and if you're going to be taking it on some commutes and whatnot, but I would have to say this is a pretty high quality satchel. So I actually have another TomToc satchel type thing here. You can see here that there's a little bit of padding right here. This is actually what I use for my Asus ROG Ally, and you can see here there's just additional space here. This one is pretty basic as well. I actually use this one for traveling because you can hook this section up right here to the back of your suitcase, and then you could go ahead and put your devices or whatever. But this is a pretty minimalistic satchel as well. I know that it does do what it needs to do, but honestly this might be a little bit too big for the Nintendo Switch, unless of course you have a whole bunch of other things that you're going to be putting on there. Again, I didn't purchase this one specifically for the Nintendo Switch, but I do have it, and I'll do a little bit of a review on it in the future as well. All right, so now we have a box full of accessories here, and I don't actually know what's in here, so let's pull out our unboxing scissors. Actually, you know what? Let's pull out our unboxing knife. So let's go ahead and tear through this tape really quick. Oh my goodness, it's like Christmas in May. Looks like I have another JSAUX case right here. Then I have a Spigen screen protector. Then I got a Nintendo Switch portable carrying case. And then I guess I got another JSAUX case. All right, so let's start off with the ergonomics controller full case set for the Nintendo Switch. Again, this is JSAUX. They definitely have a good reputation out there. A few of the things on the box says bare metal feel with dockable base and ergonomic controller design. All of those are winners to me. All right, so here we have the actual case here. Again, this is a JSAUX case. I'm not sure why I bought this including the other ones. So it looks like this is like a plastic backing. So this is actually a really thin plastic. I'm gonna go and take it off a little bit here. And so this is actually going to be used as a backing to the back of the Nintendo Switch. So here you can see it like this, and it's really slim profile. This is actually going to have like a very specific cutout for the kickstand for the Nintendo Switch 2. So very, very interesting design. Again, very, very kind of just super minimalist. And I actually think this is going to be really wonderful because of the fact that this is super thin and also has like this little cutout right here, so that way the kickstand can come through. I do like this. I'm a little concerned that it would get scratched up pretty easily, but I like this design. It feels really good. The plastic is ever so slightly flexible, but it doesn't feel like it's going to crack or break if I kind of put pressure on it. Let's see the actual Joy-Cons portion here. So the Joy-Con portion is actually going to be partially TPU and then partially more like transparent plastic. So you can see here that the Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Con would fit in there. I'm not sure if there's a way to actually open this or just sliding the Nintendo Switch controller into this little section. But ultimately, when you have everything together, it's going to be looking like this. And again, I'm sorry, I don't have the Nintendo Switch 2 yet, but it's going to be coming together like so. And then I'm assuming the same thing is going to be said to be true for the other side. Again, you would have the Joy-Cons left and right respectively. They would be inputted into the little Joy-Con respective protective cases. Press away from the actual kind of curved portion of the Joy-Con, and then that's going to actually open up the case. So that way you could easily put your Joy-Con in there and then again, put it back in like so. And then that's going to be adding some protection. So honestly, this feels really good. I really love the slim design of this, especially if you can imagine that the Nintendo Switch is going to be like this and you would just be able to play this around. That minimalistic design is really, really attractive to me. So even though I like the other JSAUX, I think this one might be the winner. The next accessory we're going to be talking about is a Spigen tempered glass. So you all know I love Spigen, and this is actually going to be a Spigen tempered glass for the Nintendo Switch exclusively. And you can see here just on the boxing, it's actually going to be Derek proofed because of the fact that it has this kind of guide frame. So let's go ahead and open this up and see what's inside. All right, so here we have the kind of guiding mechanic thing there, and then over here we have another one, and then there's nothing else inside of the box. We have some instructions here for how to actually apply the screen protector. Obviously, I can't apply the screen protector now because I don't have the Nintendo Switch 2, but essentially, you do want to make sure that you are reading the manual here, the directions, or scanning this QR code, so that way you get a greater understanding of how to do this right the first time. In here we have a little envelope of stuff. I'm assuming some cleaning supplies. It's pretty snug in there. Oh yeah, so you get a squeegee, and then you get some lens cleaning cloths, and then some dry cleaning cloths. The way Spigen's tempered glass screen protectors work is typically you'll have your device, and again, I don't have the Nintendo Switch yet, but you would have, let's say this is the Nintendo Switch. You would clean the device's screen. This one would obviously be the iPhone. You would clean it using the contents of this package. And then you would want to go ahead and peel off the back layer here. And then whenever you peel off that back layer, hopefully your screen on your actual device is clean. You would then apply the screen protector over the actual device. Again, pretending that this is a Nintendo Switch. You would then press down to make sure that this screen protector is adhering to the screen. And then once that's done, you would remove this plastic casing, and then the screen protector should be on the Nintendo Switch. Do not worry, I will do a video on how to install these screen protectors on the Nintendo Switch. All right, we have two more accessories to go. This is going to be another JSAUX case for the Nintendo Switch 2. You can see here it says comfortable hand feel, shock absorption, and drop resistance, and then all around protection. The other two cases that I just showed you earlier in this video probably do the same thing. I do wonder if this one is going to be better at it. Let's go ahead and find out what's inside. All right, so here it is. And let's go ahead and pull this out really quick. And there's just some packaging paper in there. We have a little bit of some foam, and then we have the actual JSAUX case. This actually feels like a really good JSAUX case. I would honestly say that this feels really good. The TPU, this black portions here, it is TPU. It feels like maybe mixed in with some type of rubber-ish type material, but it feels really, really sturdy. You can see a little bit more TPU, and then this back portion here is going to be hard plastic, and they have a little bit of branding there. My biggest concern here is going to be not the look and feel. I think it looks and feels really good. My biggest concern is functionality, because the Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Cons are going to have to fit into these two sections right here. And unlike the SUPCASE that we saw earlier that actually had little flaps in the Joy-Con controller area, this one doesn't. This is all one solid plastic piece. So I guess there's less potential for breakage, but then it kind of makes me wonder, how exactly am I going to be getting the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons out of this? I guess I had to find that out later, but honestly, this is a little confusing to me because I guess I would have to pull I really don't know how this works. So this one is, I like the case, I like the feel. I'm kind of curious the functionality of it, but overall it does look and feel really good. And the last accessory we have is going to be a carrying case. This is not to be confused with the TomToc bag or satchel that I showed you earlier. This is going to be an actual kind of like a suitcase type thing. So let's go ahead and break into this here. We have the actual little slippy thing right there, and it opens up like so. And we can see here that when we open it up, there is going to be pretty much nothing else inside of the box except for the case. And this is going to be similar to the Nintendo Switch 1 case that I showed you earlier. Please do know that the Nintendo Switch 2 is not going to be substantially thicker based off of the actual case here. This is just a very minimalistic case for the Nintendo Switch 1, and this one actually looks like it has more bulk because I'm hoping that it has more capacity inside. This is a kind of a harder case. It's not exactly hard plastic. There is a little bit of bend in it. You can see that I can bend it around, but for sure this is going to protect your Nintendo Switch 2. It does only have one handle on the left-hand side, so if you wanted to beat someone with this, you totally could. There probably goes your Nintendo Switch, but at least you're safe. It looks like it has a little bit of like a water-resistant zipper here, so that way if you are going to be walking in the Seattle streets and then it starts to rain unexpectedly like it does in Seattle, just kidding, then you could actually have a little bit more protection for your Nintendo Switch. So opening it up, you can see here that it has a few things. We have these kind of silica gel packets. Again, don't let your cats, dogs, bats, gerbils, hamsters, rabbits, praying mantises, don't let them eat these. It's definitely not good for them. We have some packaging paper in there. And then it looks like we have kind of a lanyard, which is pretty cool. I like that. You could put this on, and I guess this attaches to the case somewhere, or maybe it's in the Nintendo Switch. I'm not sure. And then we have a little strap here. This strap feels pretty janky. It's by no means a qualitative strap, as well as these little clasps. These clasps feel really, really cheap. They have some good kind of resistance to the actual kind of opening there, but the actual strap in and of itself, as well as the kind of metal parts of the clamps, don't feel really good. Same thing, I guess, that could be said to be true about this one as well. So for the rest of the case, we have this kind of flap looking thing here with some Velcro. It opens up quite a lot. Looks like there's going to be some mesh pockets at the top here, as well as some game cartridge sections over here. This is going to be holding all of your Nintendo Switch cartridges. This is, I want to say velvet, I don't know, but it's really soft. Maybe it has some type of cardboard inside of it, because this section right here is not very flexible. There is bend in it, but again, it's not something that's just like fabric. And then right here, you can see that there's a little bit of an indentation from where the Joy-Cons would be seated. You'll see here that the middle portion here is a little bit more of a higher platform. I'm assuming this is going to be where the back or the kickstand of the Nintendo Switch would be. And then this portion up here is going to be where the actual Switch screen is, because it has more of that velvety texture right here. So this would fit on top of your screen. The Nintendo Switch would fit facing upward, and then all of that would fit on the top section here where the Joy-Cons and then the screen respectively. There isn't too much more inside of this case. I'm not quite sure why it's so thick comparatively to this, because I mean, honestly, this one does almost the same thing and it's super, super small, but we'll find out. Honestly, I like it. It is a little bit on the bulkier side, but I'm so accustomed to carrying around the Lenovo Legion Go case, the PlayStation Portal case, or the Asus ROG Ally case, and they're all about relatively the same size and weight. So seriously, it's a small price to pay if it means protecting your Nintendo Switch from drops. All right, so there you have it. Those are going to be what I feel are going to be some of the most essential accessories for your new Nintendo Switch. Obviously, I went a little bit overkill with the amount of cases that I bought, but I'm going to be picking my favorite case, and then I'm also going to be giving one of my cases away to you. So in order for you to qualify and be a part of my Nintendo Switch 2 accessory giveaway, there's only a few things that you have to do. You have to like and publicly subscribe, and leave a comment with your all-time favorite Nintendo game that was ever made in existence. To raise the stakes a little bit, I am also going to be giving away a Nintendo Switch 2. It is going to be the Mario Kart bundle. And in order for you to qualify for the Nintendo Switch 2 bundle giveaway, you have to do the same exact things. Obviously, you have to like and subscribe, but instead of a comment this time, you're going to have to leave a donation down to the Buy Me a Coffee link down below, and 100% of your donation will be donated to charity. My pockets and bank will never see any of your donation. It's going to be donated 100% to charity. And so as a recap, if you want to qualify for the Nintendo Switch 2 accessory, the 3 things that you're going to have to do is like, subscribe, and leave a comment with your very favoriteest Nintendo game ever made in existence. And if you want to qualify for the Nintendo Switch 2 bundle, all you have to do again is going to be making sure that you're liking and subscribing, and instead of a comment, buy me a drink using the link down below. Again, that donation is going to 100% be donated to charity. That does not come to me. You have my Scout's honor on that. The donation has to be at least $1 for you to qualify for the Nintendo Switch 2 bundle. And for those of you who might be thinking I'm sketch and trying to rip you off, I will show you the transaction and the receipt where I'm taking your donated money and donating it to some type of charity, which is probably going to be the Great Pacific Garbage Patch in the Pacific Ocean. Anyways, in this brain of mine, I have so many Nintendo Switch ideas and videos to be bringing to you all, so make sure you stay tuned, you like, subscribe, and also, again, if you want to qualify, all you have to do is complete those few things, and then you'll be qualified for either the accessory set or the Nintendo Switch bundle. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.